archaeological finding having to do with ancient Israel, mystery of the copper scroll, how biblical relic could lead to secret $3 trillion treasure. A mysterious copper scroll unearthed in 1952 could lead archaeologists to the greatest discovery yet to be made in the Holy Land, a treasure trove of gold and silver potentially worth many $1 trillion. Now, the copper scroll is one of the famous Dead Sea Scrolls. It was discovered in the spring of 1952 on the northwestern shore of the Dead Sea. But unlike the Dead Sea Scrolls, which were discovered in 1946, this copper scroll is not made of parchment. Instead, it features detailed descriptions etched into a copper plate. The scroll is believed by many to lead towards a great treasure of gold and silver buried all across Jerusalem before the sacking of the Second Temple of Jerusalem that took place 70 AD under the Roman occupation. Now, according to Bible expert Professor Tom Meyer, a college lecturer and expert in Middle Eastern languages, this treasure is still awaiting to be discovered. He says that in the spring of 1952, an amazing discovery was made in Qumran, Cave 3, the same location where the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered in 1946. A single copper scroll made from a sheet of pure copper engraved with an iron stylus. The copper scroll detailed in cryptic language the final resting place of the greatest archaeological treasure yet to be discovered, he said. And according to the scroll's inscriptions, the treasure trove contained some 1,280 talents of gold, coins, and more than 65 bars of solid gold. The scroll also lists more than 600 vessels of silver coins and more than 600 sacred vessels of silver and gold dedicated to the worship of the ancient Hebrew God, of course. Now, Professor Meyer, who has memorized more than 20 books from the Bible, says just the gold coins, whose measure is given in talents, an ancient measure equivalent to 90 pounds, makes this catch 116,480 pounds of gold, which would be worth over $3 trillion. The exact weight of the talent varies between descriptions, with some historians estimating a talent weighing between 55 pounds and 60 pounds. So if this is the case, the treasure would still weigh more than 76 pounds. And regardless of the exact contents, Professor Meyer believes this to be a treasure of truly biblical proportions. He said when the copper scroll was first found, there were numerous unsuccessful attempts to open the oxidized scroll. And then finally, in 1956, the 8-inch long by 11-inch high scroll was sewn into segments at Manchester University in England in order to open it. It was discovered that the scroll was written in Mishnaic, or post-biblical Hebrew. The copper scroll is now displayed at the Jordan Museum in Amman, Jordan. The relic lists about 60 different locations where Jewish authorities hide the treasure, and they hid the treasure to keep it away from the Romans. Professor Meyer said, according to the scroll, the treasures are buried around Jerusalem and in the caves around the Dead Sea and Jericho. And in order to make them difficult to locate, the map gives in pseudonyms the place names where the treasures are buried. It also gives a description of the area's topography, how far below the surface the treasure is buried, and the kind and amount of treasure buried in that spot. An example from the scroll measures 600 bars of silver in a cistern below the rampart, quote unquote, on the east side in a place hollowed out of rock. Professor Meyer says the map existed in part with the hope of a team of diggers to recover the temple treasure and its sacred vessels for temple use after the Jews successfully repelled the invasion of Rome. But of course, Rome overcame the Jews in 70 AD, and the treasure remains buried under the sands of time, waiting for a new team of treasure hunters to make the greatest archaeological discovery in history. But not all historians agree with copper scroll references treasures from the sacking of the Second Temple. according to historian Theodore Gaster. Other theories suggest the treasure belongs to the Qumran community, a Jewish monastic group that lived on the shores of the Dead Sea. And another theory says that the copper scroll points to the location of treasures from the first temple of Jerusalem that was destroyed 586 BC by invading Babylonians, and that was the time of the exodus to Babylon. Now, some experts also speculate the Second Temple's treasures were destroyed centuries ago and have been lost in the annals of time. Amos Kloner, archaeologist professor at Bar Ilan University in Israel, told Jerusalem Post, "I'm sure the temple treasures were destroyed." Professor Klosser also said the copper scroll has proven rather unreliable. And this is by Sebastian Ketley on Express UK. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.